All right, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Betsy Longi, owner liaison with King County Housing Authority, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2025 Regional Landlord Symposium hosted by Seattle, Tacoma, and King County Housing Authorities. On behalf of the partnering agencies, we want to thank each of you for taking the time to be here today, not just as housing providers, but as critical partners in creating stability, opportunity, and community for thousands of voucher recipients across our region. For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. We're glad you're here. These annual symposiums are tailored specifically for our housing providers and partnering agencies. Your partnerships are absolutely essential, and the positive impact that you have in our communities truly cannot be overstated. So today's symposium really is an opportunity to strengthen that partnership. We'll hear from experts and peers who are heavily involved in the housing industry and collaboration efforts. We'll explore best practices with the intention of building relationships that make our collective efforts stronger. During each session, we highly encourage you to ask questions and connect with our panelists. We're hopeful that with the information presented, that you all can effectively utilize the tools and resources available for you. With that, thank you again for being here. At this time, I will go ahead and pass it over to Alexis from Tacoma Housing Authority to give us an overview of housekeeping items and our agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. So good morning, everyone. And again, welcome to the 5th Annual Regional Public Housing Authority Symposium. If you're a housing provider or a community partner in the King County or Tacoma region, you are in the right place. We are so glad to have you with us today, especially with around 300 attendees joining us virtually. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few quick housekeeping items. So this webinar is being recorded. We will be sharing the slides and the recording within the next few weeks. So please keep an eye out in your inbox. Please use the Zoom's Q&A feature for all questions throughout the day. We will do our best to answer as many topic relevant questions as possible. With such a large group, we may not be able to get to everything, but we do appreciate your participation and questions. Most questions or most sessions will include a brief Q&A at the end. So if you have Public Housing Authority specific questions, we suggest reaching out directly to your local housing authority for the most accurate information if you don't get that during the webinar today. So a quick look at our agenda. We are going to have our federal funding update here in a few minutes. Then we are going to have inspection presentation, housing quality standards, and Inspire inspection starting around 11. At 12 o'clock, we're going to have a lunch break. And then from about 12:30 to 2:15, we are going to have state and local legislative updates with Rental Housing Association of Washington. About 2:15, we're going to have the Washington Landlord Mitigation Program talk to us about that program. And then at 2:55 to 3 p.m., we're going to have some closing remarks, survey information. And again, if we have a little bit of time at the end of our presentations, we might just have a little break, but we will let you know. And thank you guys so much for being here. We look forward to a great day of learning and collaboration. And so I'm going to hand it over to Giram.
Hello, everyone. I'm Giram from the Seattle Housing Authority. And up next, we have our federal funding update. And our presenters are Jessica Barros from King County Housing Authority, Vice President of Policy and Intergovernmental Affairs. And we have Demi Reeves from Seattle Housing Authority, International Relations Coordinator, and the Deputy Executive Director from Tacoma Housing Authority, Aley Thompson. And I'll hand it off to them.
Awesome. Thank you, Giram. Give me just 1 second while I share my screen here. Okay.
Demi, would you like me to share?
Sure, if you have it pulled up, thank you. It's been a minute since I've used Zoom, so thanks. Perfect. And Jessica, if you want to just change that to the presentation view, I think we're looking at your presenter view. And while we do that, I will just get us started. Hello again, my name is Demi Reeves. I'm with the Seattle Housing Authority, and I am joined by my colleagues, Aley and Jessica from the Tacoma Housing Authority and the King County Housing Authority.
My
we-
apologies.
No worries.
Can you all see the presentation?
No.
How about now?
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. Thanks everyone for your patience. Like I said, my name is Demi. I'm with the Seattle Housing Authority, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Aley and Jessica, from the Tacoma Housing Authority and King County Housing Authorities. So before we dive into the content, we just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you to all of you for being a landlord participating in our Housing Choice Voucher programs. We recognize that in this super tight rental market where our landlords like you have many applicants for their rental units, that you continue to provide housing options to our participants. We know that the success of our HCV programs depend on our ability to contract with owners, management companies, and community partners such as you all. So just a huge thank you to all of you and for your continued participation and dedication to serving the populations that our housing authorities serve. So before we talk a little bit about our current funding and where we're at with the potential federal changes, just wanted to give you a little bit of background on each of our housing authorities. The Seattle Housing Authority was established in 1939, and in our early days, we are proud to say that we created the nation's first racially integrated public housing. And today we are one of the largest affordable housing providers within the city of Seattle, serving over 37,000 people, which is about 17,600 households. And of those 17,600, about 11,800 are served through our HCV program and served by all of you. So 2/3 of who SHA serves are considered elderly and disabled, and more than 45% of the people we serve were formerly homeless and benefit significantly from the housing that we are able to provide through our partnerships with all of you. I will turn it over to Aley to talk a little more about the Tacoma Housing Authority.
Sure. Thanks, Demi, and good morning to everyone. Again, my name is Aley Thompson, and I'm THA's Deputy Executive Director. And THA is the smallest, but we're still a very mighty housing authority here to the south. For those who may not be aware, the city of Tacoma has about 220,000 people living in it, and we have close to 100,000 households here in Tacoma. Tacoma Housing Authority, we call ourselves THA. We serve over 11,000 people in Tacoma and over 5,000 households. And in Tacoma, our jurisdiction is the city of Tacoma and a 2.5-mile radius around it. THA recently negotiated joint jurisdiction within all of Pierce County with Pierce County Housing Authority. But I'll note that we've only implemented that for a select number of our programs at this time, like the VASH and FUP programs, which are voucher programs for veterans and for foster youth. About 1,800 households live in THA properties, and about 2,700 households rent from you all, our housing provider partners on the private market. Similar to SHA, 38% of household members are children, 31% of household members are elderly or disabled, and well over 80% of folks on our programs are extremely low income. THA's 4 strategic priorities are to enhance financial sustainability, to add more housing throughout the city of Tacoma and Pierce County, to invest in housing stability and community vitality. And what that means is to get people housed, keep them successfully housed, and connect and provide services to help folks thrive, and to serve as a great employer, contractor, and community partner. And all of our agency goals kind of fall under one of those strategic priorities. I just wanted to give a couple of updates, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, I think, throughout, that THA is currently not issuing new vouchers to new program participants. And we don't anticipate issuing vouchers throughout the rest of 2026 at this time. Some highlights from where I sit in Tacoma is that we just opened 231 units of affordable housing on the Hilltop in 2026, and this year in 2025, and between 2026 and 2028, we will be working on rehabbing over 300 of our units in 2 communities within Tacoma. And I'll pass it on to Jessica.
Thank you, Aley. I'm Jessica Barros, Vice President of Policy and Intergovernmental Affairs with King County Housing Authority, or KCHA. KCHA serves all of King County except for Seattle and Tacoma, which have their own housing authorities. So we serve the other 39 cities in King County, as well as the unincorporated areas. We serve 50,000 people across the county, and that includes 14,000 housing choice voucher households. Like Tacoma, we currently, our wait list is closed. We are not issuing new vouchers, and that will be the case for the foreseeable future. Our last lottery was in 2020. And I will go ahead and move into the federal funding update. So a little bit about public housing authorities. They are primarily funded through federal funds. The majority of our funding comes from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. We also have other income, for example, rent revenue or non-HUD public and private grants. For example, we may apply for and receive funds from the State Department of Commerce or Housing Finance Commission and Trust Fund. However, the primary funding source is federal, and we have direct contracts with HUD for funding for housing choice vouchers and other types of housing. One thing that we're very focused on right now is looking at the funding picture going forward. As you've probably heard in the news, we are at an impasse with determining what the fiscal year 2026 budget will be at the federal level. And so to give you an overview of historical funding and where we are now, this chart shows just for housing choice vouchers renewals, which are housing choice vouchers going forward in fiscal year 26, as well as the administrative fees that support the housing authorities to operationalize the vouchers and actually provide them. When we look at the fiscal year 2024, housing choice vouchers were funded at about $28.5 billion. And in 2025, they were funded at $32.1 billion. That increase reflected the increase in rental costs. So that was kind of keeping up with inflation, essentially. For fiscal year 2026, which officially was supposed to start on October 1st of this year, HUD recommended zeroing out the housing choice voucher program and the administrative fees, and as well as many other housing programs. And we have an asterisk here because they didn't simply recommend zeroing them out. They, in lieu of the housing choice vouchers, public housing funds, and many other funds, recommended and proposed a state rental assistance block grant that would go to the states. And it comprised each of these housing choice vouchers, many other housing programs that are federally funded. So they added those all up and then cut it by 42%. And that would have been the amount that would go to states. So it was still billions of dollars, but not as many billions of dollars as what continued funding would have been. So that's just a little caveat there. But the bottom line was that it was a proposed cut, a large cut. For fiscal year 26, what our industry partners like the Council of Large Public Housing Authorities and other industry partners, what we requested was about $36 billion for housing choice voucher program. That would meet the current need better than what we can currently, and also reflect the increase in rental costs and continue to increase with inflation. We also look at what the House and Senate each proposed. So the committee, the Appropriations Committee that works in Congress, is called the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Committee. So we lovingly call it THUD. So the THUD bill in the House was about $32 billion, and in the Senate it was almost $34 billion. So you can kind of see across the board that what's being proposed in the House and Senate, as well as what's being asked for by the industry, is a slight increase from 2025. Well, I would say what we're requesting is a slight increase, and what the House and Senate are proposing is around level or a slight increase, with the Senate being a little bit better. And to give you another view of how the budget process works, we first start with that White House budget, which was the proposal to eliminate many of the housing programs, including housing choice vouchers, and replace it with a block grant funded at a much lower level. That usually comes out, and it's a policy proposal. It's very seldom that the White House budget is the final budget that is released, but it did garner a lot of attention this year just because it was so drastically different. Then the House and Senate come up with their proposals, those THUD budgets that I was mentioning. And then typically what happens is that the House and Senate come together and conference and agree on a final budget, which is then passed by each chamber, and the president signs it or vetoes it. Where we are now is a little bit of an impasse because of the shutdown. So we're kind of in limbo because what happened is that the fiscal year lapsed. So the last day of the fiscal year that was funded was September 30th of this year. And until Congress passes a budget that passes both sides of the House and Senate and the president signs it, we don't have funding. So as you've probably seen in the news, and we have communicated with you, the HAP payments to landlords are continuing through the remainder of this year, is what we know so far. So some essential programs like that are continuing, but generally we don't know what the picture is going forward until a budget is passed. Want to be very clear too that public housing authorities, while we are primarily funded federally and our contracts are directly with the federal government, we are not federal government employees. So we are not furloughed. We are not shut down. We are still open. And so there isn't an immediate effect on our operations where our staff and clients are concerned. And like I said, the housing choice voucher payments, the housing subsidy payments are continuing uninterrupted through the end of 2025. The longest government shutdown in history was 35 days, and we are at 30 days now. So, we're hopeful that there will be a resolution soon. It would be unprecedented, as they say, to go beyond another week. And so we're hopeful that by the end of 2025, we will have a budget and that there will be resumed services. HUD has also said that there won't be major impacts on public housing authorities, but we just don't know how long that shutdown will last. But our primary goal is to keep people housed, to ensure housing stability for our residents and our voucher tenants. And we are monitoring this very closely. We will continue to post updates. We each have websites with federal funding information, and we will continue to keep you updated as our landlord partners. Are there any questions?
Oh, sorry, Jessica.
Aley, were you going to jump in here?
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate. I think I just want to reiterate a few things that you said, because it's really important. We've been reiterating this with landlords that have been coming to our offices, who've been writing us, with our customers, with our staff. But I just want to reiterate that we have funding through the end of this year, and that we're concerned about what's going on, but we're monitoring it. And there is a lot of information that is all over right now, whether it's social media, within news organizations. And I'll say here what I say to our staff who come speak to me all the time about something that they've read or they've heard on the news or in social media is that when we know something that will impact our customers and our operations, you will know. It's the same for our landlords. Our staff will know, our customers will know, our landlords will know. And we are committed to keeping you informed. And that's why Jessica talked about our websites. I think that every housing authority has it right on their front page, our federal updates. And we are keeping information there as soon as we know something. So again, appreciate all of you partnering with us and partnering through us through sometimes turbulent times. But we're really, I think all three housing authorities, we're doing our jobs on the federal level, but also I can speak for the operations and say we're keeping our heads down and we're doing our work and we're keeping our families housed. And we appreciate your partnership. Somebody in the, okay, we've got some questions. What is driving the 2026 administrative fee increase request of about 25%? Jessica, maybe we could go back to the funding.
Yes.
But I can speak generally about our admin fees, is that we're not funded adequately to operate our programs. And so we're always advocating for additional funding for our administrative fee. So that would be my answer to that question.
Yes, and to add on to what Aley said, so what's the current HCV administrative fee funding level? Well, for fiscal year 2025 was about 2.8 billion. The House is proposing about 1.92 billion, and the Senate is proposing about 2.9 billion. So there isn't an increase. Now, the request was for an increase because over time, the administrative fees have not kept up with the actual costs. So that would be the reason for the increased funding request, but it's unlikely to be granted.
I see another question in here, and I think that one's for me. Is there a housing authority that serves the Puyallup South Hill area? If I've got my geography right, South Hill is in Pierce County. And so South Hill is covered by Pierce County Housing Authority. And Alexis, I don't know enough if our jurisdiction covers that area, part of that area as well, but we could follow up.
Yeah, Mel, if you wanted to email me and I could see if your address falls within our jurisdiction. And I'll give you my email address here in a sec.
Yeah, Pierce County Housing Authority is a great partner of THA and all of ours, and operates similarly like Seattle and King County, where there's a housing authority for the city and there's a housing authority for the county. In Tacoma and with Pierce County, there's a little bit more flexibility around the jurisdiction. So Pierce County Housing Authority, even though they're not presenting right now, they're an active housing authority, and you can visit their website.
We have a third question in the chat from an anonymous attendee. Says if we do not have any vouchers available for King County or Tacoma, what are you doing for current needs for new clients? Is there a way to wean the existing people off the program to allow others to get help?
I think it's important to clarify that we aren't able to issue vouchers from our wait list right now, but our current clients, if they need to relocate, we can issue them a voucher to relocate. But I will pass the answer off to another attendee.
I can talk a little bit and then I can stop talking so other folks can. But I hear you. The resources are just not enough to address the need and all of these counties within all these housing authorities jurisdictions. And because of our funding situation right now, we're focused on all housing authorities are focused on keeping folks stably housed. I can speak to Tacoma Housing Authority and let you know that a lot of the folks that we serve are extremely low income. Some folks are elderly and disabled, not able to work, but a ton of folks are working. They're working and they're extremely low income. And we have programs that we operate, like the Family Self-Sufficiency Program and other supports that we work with families to help them increase their income. So eventually they will not rely on housing assistance. So we have programs that focus on economic mobility for folks, whether it's furthering education, vocational opportunities, and avenues and paths for them to increase their income. And that's a way that we help, move folks up and off programs as they're able in order to bring in other families. I think I can speak to THA and say that our housing authority used to have a program that was a time-limited voucher program, but we stopped that program. We stopped that program because it really had some significant impacts on certain populations. But overall, we found through our research that we were, if we were to exit folks after 5 years, we were exiting them back into a very unstable, potentially homeless housing situation. And so it's our goal at Tacoma Housing Authority to stably house people. And for those who are able to help them navigate resources to move up and off program as a way of, furthering their economic mobility. So the situation is unfortunate in terms of our scarcity of resources, but we're doing the best that we can to help serve our customers in order to be able to serve more families. And we're constantly, all three housing authorities are constantly advocating on that. We just came back from Washington, D.C., many of us, speaking to our elected officials just about the importance of funding these programs more broadly. I think that unfortunately, we're seeing an increase in our communities of the need for our types of programming over years past. And really, realistically, when you look over time, our funding has remained rather flat. I mean, it's responding in some cases to increases in the cost of living, allowing us to sustain our programs. And then these housing authorities have all done really creative things to help us serve new families in new and innovative ways. But we're always advocating for really a much more massive investment in the programs that we operate.
Thank you, Aley. And we have another question. Is there a list of resources to give to voucher holders to pay rent for King County, Tacoma, and Pierce?
I know at least for King County Housing Authority, and I can probably speak for most of the other housing authorities, we all have our resident services teams that essentially are our resource gurus that essentially if people do fall in hard times, we essentially will refer them to their services so that they can essentially assess the situation and essentially give the best resources that the tenants essentially qualify for. So if you do have any tenants that are behind on their rent, we can't help if we don't know. So please, please, please reach out to anyone who's on the call. So landlord liaisons, we are more than happy to get you to where you need to go. So at least for King County, please feel free to reach out to either Betsy or myself, but we are more than happy to assist you.
Yeah, and I can say that THA has resources on our website as well.
Yeah, I'll chime in to just echo what Jordan said. For our voucher participants, we have housing counselors and support services and a wide variety of offerings. If landlords are interested in looking at some of the resources that we have available to folks, as Aley mentioned for THA, the Seattle Housing Authority also has a variety of resources listed on our website that you're welcome to take a look at as well. That's just at seattlehousing.org. And happy to provide additional resources for the Seattle area. If you reach out to one of our housing liaisons or myself, we'd be happy to provide the links to those resources and other opportunities or options that are available for folks.
So a question I hear a lot from our housing provider partners is how can housing providers help advocate for continued funding for public housing authorities and housing choice voucher programs?
Yeah, I can speak to that. And I understand later in your program, the Rental Housing Association will come and be providing some guidance on that. As public housing authorities, we are public agencies. So we educate and we provide factual information, and we also share information with, as Aley said, with our elected officials. We just got back from Washington, D.C. We share information about how housing choice vouchers and other public housing programs have helped people in our community and share resident stories. As far as being landlords, you are also welcome to contact your elected officials. We don't provide that because we're not an advocacy organization, and so we'd encourage you to get that information from the Rental Housing Association. And as constituents, it is your right to contact your elected officials, and please do take advantage of your rights in that respect.
It looks like we have another question in the chat. I think they're asking if there's any eviction prevention programs with the funding.
Happy to jump in here for the City of Seattle. We are really fortunate to work with city partners and our city officials that are deeply invested in ensuring that folks are able to remain stably housed. So the City of Seattle has a variety of eviction prevention and rental assistance and tenant protection programs that folks are able to apply for. I know during their 2026 budgeting process, they're proposing some new and additional investments to those programs to help support the stability of households within the City of Seattle. But again, as we've said for our programs, there's just not enough to cover everyone. And so while those programs are receiving funding and new and increased funding at the state level, there has been historic investments in housing and rental assistance and eviction prevention programs. And still we see that it's not enough. So while, as Jessica said, we are not advocacy organizations, we do think that we know that these are important issues to our elected officials, to our city officials, and to us as well. And we're constantly in contact with those partners and providers to educate on the importance of these programs and how much it impacts all of you and us and the people that we serve. And we encourage you to reach out to those folks as well, to share your story and express your interests. Like Jessica said, it's your right to contact your congressional representatives, your state representatives, and your city folks. And we encourage that you do and express your interest in some of these programs as well.
And I'll just reiterate what Jessica, or maybe it was Alexa, said. You know, if you've got program participants, or even any of your other tenants who may be behind on rent, well, program participants, please let us know so we can connect you with resources in your specific jurisdiction with your that applies to your housing authority. In Pierce County, we have where it's similar to Seattle, where there's an array of options. The Pierce County, the county of Pierce County has an eviction prevention program. Again, it has limited resources, and I just pulled up their website now. I know that they lottery assistance, and the next lottery is November 10th. It looks like that they do a lottery on the 10th of every month, and then that households are notified the next day. So they're operating off of limited resources, but folks can apply every month for this assistance and submit to the lottery. There's also other organizations, and I'm just off the top of my head, like we have MDC here in Pierce County, who also helps with utility assistance and things like that. But again, if you connect with your landlord liaisons or your housing specialists within with your housing authority, they will be able to point you to areas of our website or to resources that should be able to get your program participants help.
I also did a really quick look for King County, for keeping King County housed as well. They still say they have about $7 million left in their bank. So that's what their website says. So I'm very excited to see that. So definitely I know that is still a lottery-based system, but definitely have your clients reach out there as well, because it seems like they still have money.
We have one more question in the chat from Largo. Worst case scenario, is there a specific time we might want to think about making sure voucher holders know funding can be in jeopardy if the shutdown does go on and on? Basically, I don't want to worry about them and want to help them get prepared.
I can speak to that a little bit. What Largo shares in the chat there is kind of representative of the thinking process that we go through as public housing authorities, because like that, the sentiment that was shared there, we don't want to unnecessarily alarm residents, and particularly in this time, there's a lot coming at all people there's just a lot in the news. There's a lot of different policy changes that are coming at people, and we don't want to confuse people, and two, we don't want to create a flurry or create urgency when the situation could be resolved. So we really do think through this carefully and try to very clearly communicate and not over communicate. And so we'll speak on behalf of KCHA that I hear your suggestion. We are thinking through that on a daily basis as well. And certainly when and if there is information to share with tenants in a way that will be useful to them, we agree that would be something to be shared, and we make that a practice to share information when it is available.
Yeah, and I'll just add that we're trying to balance everything that's going on. So folks are likely aware that there are risks related to food assistance that many of our customers are reliant on. And so, we are all making plans behind the scenes for worst case scenario stuff. And again, we'll be communicating with you as soon as we know something. But right now, I know that our teams internally are really focused on communicating with folks. Actually, I know all housing authorities, because I'm following all your social media. Everybody is spreading the word about where we're getting food, where to get food, and how to address the situation that's going on with food resources, and what the state of Washington is doing to step up to help support our families. So again, we're balancing messaging a lot of different environmental situations that are impacting our customers, and really trying to keep people stably housed and not afraid if we don't have to raise the alarm.
I'll just add to that and want to really just reemphasize that we do have funding through end of 2025. So that is November and December that we know that we will be receiving and distributing those housing assistance payments. And I think I won't speak for the other agencies, but at Seattle Housing Authority, we also are doing some planning in advance, it sounds like, and I know that the other housing authorities are also doing some planning in advance to ensure that there's contingencies should something, should the shutdown be significantly prolonged. But again, the longest shutdown in the history of the United States has only been about 35 days. And while we're approaching that date, I want to reiterate that it would be pretty unprecedented for it to go on through 2026 and into the new year. I don't think I don't claim to know what Congress is going to do or not, but I think just want to reiterate that it would be very unusual and probably a little unlikely for it to go on into 2026. So just want to say that I know that this is scary and it's very unprecedented, and we don't necessarily know what is going to happen next, but we are with you. We are planning. I know all of our housing authorities are constantly communicating, and we are all updating that potential federal impacts page on each of our websites constantly. And any and all new information will be communicated out. If we get to a point where we think that there needs to be people need to be concerned about future payments, we will be providing communication, and we'll be providing it early and often. So please keep an eye out for those communications and check the website, our websites, if you have questions, or feel free to reach out to any of us to chat more about it.